300 people, one store, one $400 watch. And somehow, security still couldn't control the crowd. That's the part nobody expected. Because this wasn't a Rolex release, it wasn't a rare Patek, and it definitely wasn't some ultra-complicated six-figure masterpiece built for billionaires. It was a Swatch. A colorful, playful Swatch connected to Audemars Piguet. Yet the second the APX Swatch Royal Pop dropped, the watch world completely lost its mind. Overnight lines formed outside stores. Resellers instantly started flipping pieces online for insane prices. Collectors argued for days about whether AP had just created marketing genius or destroyed its own prestige forever. And honestly, the craziest part isn't even the watch itself. It's what this release exposed about modern luxury. Because somewhere between the chaos, the hype, and the endless online debates, this collaboration accidentally revealed something most luxury brands never want people to notice. Sometimes exclusivity is just marketing with better storytelling, and once you realize that, the entire Royal Pop story starts looking very different. By the end of this video, you'll understand why people were fighting over a $400 Swatch, why traditional collectors are so divided, and why the real value of this watch has almost nothing to do with telling time. But before we get into the watch itself, you need to understand why this collaboration felt almost illegal to some collectors. Because for decades, brands like Audemars Piguet survived on one thing above everything else: distance. Luxury watches aren't just expensive because of materials or craftsmanship. They're expensive because they feel unreachable. That distance creates desire. The harder something is to obtain, the more emotionally powerful it becomes. That's exactly why the Royal Oak became iconic in the first place. Owning one meant you entered a different level of status entirely. Athletes wore them. Celebrities wore them. Billionaires collected them. Most people never expected to even touch one in real life. Then suddenly, Swatch walked in and changed the rules. And this isn't just another affordable collaboration trying to imitate luxury aesthetics. That's where things start getting interesting. Because the Royal Pop doesn't behave like a normal budget watch at all. The second it launched, the conversation stopped being about specs and started becoming about identity. Collectors saw danger, new buyers saw opportunity, and the internet turned the entire release into a war. Look at the design for more than 5 seconds, and the AP influence becomes impossible to ignore. The angular case shape, the integrated style, the aggressive wrist presence. Even from across a room, the DNA of the Royal Oak is obvious. Swatch knew exactly what they were doing here. But here's the smart part. Instead of trying to create a cheap fake luxury watch, they leaned into something completely different. The Royal Pop feels playful on purpose. Louder colors, less intimidation, more personality. That decision probably saved the entire collaboration. Because if Swatch had tried too hard to imitate a real AP, collectors would have destroyed it instantly. Instead, the watch almost feels self-aware. It knows it isn't trying to replace a $30,000 Royal Oak. It's trying to capture the feeling people associate with one. And strangely enough, it works. That's why so many first-time buyers became obsessed with this release. Not because of mechanical complexity, not because of rare materials. Because the watch made luxury feel emotionally accessible for the first time. And once that happened, something unexpected started happening online. People who had never cared about watches suddenly started learning the language of luxury watch culture. That's a huge deal. Normally, brands spend years trying to create that kind of attention naturally. The Royal Pop achieved it in days. But this is where the story gets complicated, because the more attention the watch received, the angrier traditional collectors became. For some enthusiasts, the Royal Pop represented everything wrong with modern luxury culture. Too much hype, too much branding, too much focus on social media attention instead of craftsmanship. And honestly, their criticism isn't completely wrong. Strip away the AP logo for a second and ask yourself something honestly. Would people still care this much? That single question created one of the biggest debates in the watch community. Some people saw a genius collaboration bringing new audiences into luxury watches. Others saw a colorful Swatch hiding behind the reputation of Audemars Piguet. And that tension kept making the release bigger. Because controversy creates engagement. Engagement creates visibility. And visibility creates demand. That cycle is exactly why the Royal Pop exploded far beyond normal watch audiences. Even people who mocked the collaboration couldn't stop talking about it. And the second resale prices started climbing. Everything became even crazier. Suddenly, buyers who never planned to purchase the watch felt pressured to act immediately before missing out completely. That reaction wasn't accidental. Luxury brands have mastered scarcity psychology for decades. The harder something feels to obtain, the more emotionally valuable it becomes. Sneaker brands do it. Fashion brands do it. Tech companies do it. But seeing those same hype mechanics enter a traditional industry like Swiss watchmaking felt almost surreal, especially to older collectors. Because to them, Audemars Piguet represented exclusivity above everything else. Now that exclusivity was sitting inside a Swatch store, and for some people, that felt almost disrespectful. Still, wearing the Royal Pop daily changes the conversation completely. This isn't just another entry-level luxury watch trying desperately to feel serious and expensive. It feels relaxed, fun, confident in its own identity. That matters more than most collectors realize. A lot of luxury watches create pressure around ownership. Owners become paranoid about scratches, terrified of damage, careful about where they wear them. The Royal Pop removes that fear instantly. Throw it on casually and it still gets attention. Wear it daily and it still feels expressive. Take it into situations where most luxury owners would hesitate and suddenly the watch becomes more enjoyable than impressive. That's where expectations begin to shift. Because compared to many traditional entry-level luxury watches, the Royal Pop doesn't feel like a compromise emotionally. It feels intentional, and modern buyers care about that feeling far more than older industries expect. Younger audiences aren't always chasing old-school collector approval anymore. They care about personality, cultural relevance, individual style. The Royal Pop understands that perfectly, which explains why so many younger buyers connected with it emotionally almost instantly. But the biggest surprise came later, because the collaboration may have accidentally helped Audemars Piguet more than hurt it. Millions of people who previously ignored luxury watches suddenly recognized the Royal Oak silhouette overnight. Search interest exploded. Social media conversations exploded. Brand awareness exploded. That kind of exposure is incredibly valuable for a luxury company thinking long-term. Because collaborations like this aren't always about selling watches immediately. Sometimes they're about introducing younger audiences to a brand before those audiences can even afford the real thing, and whether collectors admit it or not. The Royal Pop succeeded at that brilliantly. That's why this collaboration feels bigger than a normal release. It exposed how modern luxury actually works now. Attention matters. Culture matters. Emotion matters. Sometimes even more than craftsmanship itself. So, is the APX Swatch Royal Pop actually worth the hype? If you judge it purely as traditional high horology, probably not. But if you judge it as a cultural moment, a gateway into luxury watches, and one of the smartest marketing collaborations the industry has seen in years, the answer becomes much harder to deny. Because the Royal Pop was never really trying to compete with elite watchmaking, it was competing for relevance. And judging by the reaction of the entire internet, it won. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more deep dives into watches, luxury culture, and the psychology behind the products people obsess over. And tell me in the comments, did Swatch make Audemars Piguet more exciting, or did it make luxury feel less special?